Good evening, folks, and welcome to Clear Sky Productions' Irrational Electoral Map Prediction. That's right, folks. This is my official electoral map prediction. I will get into all the states stuff here in just a second. A couple things I'd like to cover. So today is October 30th, 2020 as I'm recording this. I hope to have this up later tonight. Hopefully, we'll see how that goes. Might be tomorrow, but we'll see. But I was thinking about doing this video like on election day and uploading it on election day, but I thought, well, why not just do it a couple days in advance and kind of have a few days to talk about it and share our thoughts, throw our thoughts around and stuff. Which of course also reminds me, please, if you're gonna comment, and I'm not gonna like turn comments off or censor comments, I don't believe in any of that stuff. Comments will be open like always, but just please keep the comment section clean and respectful. That's all I ask. Okay, disagreements, feel free. Throw your disagreements everywhere. Just keep it clean. That's all I'm asking. So, and since, I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna like delete comments or any of that crap, so you guys are on the honor system on that. So, don't disappoint me, please. Okay, so with that crap out of the way, let's go ahead, since we still have a few days before the election. I'm pretty sure everybody's mind is made up at this point, regardless of who you're voting for. All three of the debates are done. Well, actually, it was supposed to be three presidential and one vice president debate. Supposed to be 4 total, but there's only 3. But in any case, debates are done, assuming debates even changed anybody's mind, which they might not have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it, and let's cover the Irrational 2020 Electoral Maps Prediction by Clear Sky Productions. So, without further ado, here we go. So, I'm not really going to do these in any particular order, I guess, other than just, I'm going to start with the easier states, I guess, and work my way towards the more difficult ones. Because some of these states are easy, others not so much. Also, do keep in mind, this is not what I want to see happen. This is based on what I think is going to happen, so just keep that in mind. What you're going to see here is not necessarily a reflection of what I want to see happen. If that were the case, every single state would be the same color. So, alright, let's just go ahead and jump right into it then. Okay, so the first state I'm going to start off with, in my opinion, is the easiest state. That is Oklahoma. What color is this? It's going to go red. Oklahoma's going red. There's no way Oklahoma's going to go blue. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Oklahoma's going red. It's been red for a long time. It will continue to be red for the foreseeable future. Keep in mind, in 2016 and 2012, the latter of which was won by the Democrats, because that's when Obama got reelected. In 2012 and 16, every single county in Oklahoma went red. Every single one of them, including Oklahoma County, which is where Oklahoma City is, they all went red. All 77 counties went red. The state's going red in 2020. There's just no way it's not going to. Oklahoma is easy, going red. That's 7 electoral votes for Trump in this case. Arkansas, red. No reason to believe it'll go blue. Tennessee, red. Louisiana, red. I'll come back to Texas in just a second, because there's a couple thoughts I have to say on that. I'm starting off with the easy ones, okay? So, Mississippi, red. Alabama, red. Now, ironically, some people might disagree with me on this, and ultimately I don't think it will matter anyway, but between these two states, I think Mississippi would have the higher chance of going blue than Alabama. But again, not that it'll matter that much in the end, because I think both of them will go red anyway, so. Missouri. Missouri's gonna go red. I mean, Missouri's just really not that... Missouri's really not hardcore Republican or Democrat from what I've heard. I've only been to Missouri like one time, and that was like 10 years ago, so I'm not... I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, just based on what I've heard, Missouri's not a hardcore red or blue state. That said, there's just not enough Democrat support in Missouri to turn the state blue, especially in this case being Joe Biden. The most Democrat area in Missouri, I would say, is St. Louis. And St. Louis just doesn't seem like that major of a not major of a city, sorry, to turn all of Missouri blue. And there's Kansas City as well, but again, Kansas City, for big city standards, Kansas City seems really conservative. not totally conservative. I'm just saying for big city standards. So, that being said, not a lot of hardcore Republican activity going on in Missouri, I guess, if that makes any sense. Not much to say on Missouri, ironically, even though I just got done saying all the stuff about Missouri. All I had to say on Missouri was that there's not much to say on Missouri, so I'm going to keep Missouri red. Okay, let's switch gears here since I've covered all red states so far. Let's switch gears a little bit and go with Illinois. Illinois, I think, will remain blue. Illinois is a little trickier, I think, than some people think. When you look at Illinois on a county-by-county basis, most of Illinois is red. Like, rural Illinois is pretty red. But then you got Chicago. Chicago is a major factor in Illinois. Like, I guarantee you at least 75%, probably more actually, of Illinois' Democrat votes come from Chicago. Springfield, which is the capital of Illinois, no, it's not Chicago, for anyone who didn't know, they get some blue votes too. I think the St. Louis area, like maybe on the other side of the border, since St. Louis is a border city and all that, that area might get some blue votes as well. East St. Louis, Illinois. But yeah, even though most of Illinois, or rural Illinois that is, goes red, those big cities are a big factor, I think, in Illinois. I think it'll stay blue. Okay, so let's cover the Dakotas and Nebraska. North Dakota red, South Dakota red. Those are easy. Nebraska red. I think most of Nebraska will go red. I don't know. You think that one vote might go Democrat? I don't think so. I think that'll stay red. Who knows? Maybe Biden will get lucky and get that one vote, but I just... Now, if Kansas were the state that was split up like this instead of Nebraska, I do think Biden would win at least a couple of these votes if Kansas was split up, but it's not split up. That's Nebraska. And I think Nebraska's a lot redder than Kansas is. So, Kansas. Which direction's Kansas going to go in? I do think ultimately Kansas will stay red, but Kansas is going to be a little bit more, I think, at stake than some of these other states here. It's going to be closer in Kansas. I don't think this is one of those states where they're going to call 1% of the vote. Oh, Trump wins by a landslide. Probably not, but I do ultimately think that'll stay red. Okay, since I have mostly red states, I only have one blue state so far. That's Illinois. Let's cover a couple of blue states, I guess. So Colorado, blue. New Mexico, blue. Nevada. Nevada's a little tricky. I'm going to keep Nevada blue. I know Trump's been campaigning a lot in Nevada. I think Nevada's going to be very interesting, and I do think it's going to be a close state. But at the end of the day, I just don't see it going red. I will leave Nevada blue. Okay, so since I am going from easier states to harder states, I guess let's go up to New England. Okay, New York is easy, blue. New Jersey is blue. Vermont blue. Massachusetts blue. Vermont, I think, will be a little bit more purple, comparatively speaking. But I'm gonna still leave it blue, I guess. Same thing with Delaware. Maybe kind of close. I'm gonna keep it blue. Connecticut blue. Rhode Island blue. Washington, which is technically not New England, but whatever. Blue. Maryland blue. Now New Hampshire. I think New Hampshire is going to go red. I think New Hampshire does have a chance at going red. New Hampshire's a little bit more, I would say, rural, if that makes sense, compared to some of the other New England states, especially New York and Massachusetts, which is where Boston is. But you get up into New Hampshire and Maine and even Vermont, that's where things get a little bit more rural. Not nearly as much big city out there. And, of course, we all know big cities kind of tend to go for Democrats. Rural areas tend to go for Republicans. I think we can all agree on that no matter who you support. So, and New Hampshire was a very close... Hang on, I'm going to close my window real quick before I continue. Sorry, my brother's out in the backyard. He's out there, like, talking to himself, so I'm just going to close the window so there's no background noise. Okay, where was I? Right, so New Hampshire. New Hampshire was a very close state 4 years ago. It just barely went blue, but Trump led a lot in 2016. before it did ultimately go blue. But I do think New Hampshire has a shot at going red this year. I know, again, Trump has been campaigning pretty hard in New Hampshire, so I'm leaning towards red on New Hampshire. And even Maine, same thing. I think Maine will go completely red. Now, Maine being one of the 2 states that splits their votes up. Maine went mostly red 4 years ago, although that one electoral vote did go for Hillary Clinton. It did go mostly red. I think it's going to be a little more red this time around. Same thing with New Hampshire. But the rest of New England, I have blue for the time being. Here's an easy state, which I forgot about. Kentucky, red. Indiana, red. Ohio, I'm going to get back to Ohio, because I think Ohio might actually be the toughest state, or one of the toughest states for sure. Actually, before I do that, okay, Montana, red. Idaho, red. Wyoming, red. Utah, red. All right, so even though there's a lot more red states on this map, look at the electoral count. So we have 117 for Trump and 124 for Biden. So even though there are more red states than blue states, Biden does have a slight... Actually, no, I guess, I mean, there are a lot of blue New England states, so I don't know. I guess if you counted them up, maybe it's closer. It's kind of hard to believe sometimes just with eye perspective how, oh, there's so many states up here. You know, oh, look at all these red states. Oh, New England, oh, but they're all different states. Anyway, point is so it's pretty neck and neck right now, even though it looks like there's more red than blue. But, yeah, so... where are we going to go from here? Okay, let's talk about the non-continental 48 states. These are easy. Alaska will go red. Hawaii blue. Not that either state really matters much. This is 3 electoral votes. That's 4. So they're a little meaningless, but pretty easy. So there you have it. Alaska red, Hawaii blue. Okay, let's go a little north here. Okay, Minnesota. This is a state I think it's going to shock a lot of people, but I will not be shocked at all to see this. Sorry. Minnesota, you guys ready for this? This is shocking, but to me, this is not really that risky of a prediction. I mean, it kind of is, but it's kind of not. You already know where I'm going with this, so let's get over with. That's right, Minnesota's going to go red. Yeah, Minnesota is going to go red. I'm very confident Minnesota is going to go red. Trump has been campaigning a lot in Minnesota. And I think what that tells me is he knows that Minnesota, it's not just me, I think he knows Minnesota has a really good shot at going red. I think Biden's been doing some campaigning up there as well, I think. But I know Trump has been doing a lot of rallies up there. And they've been attracting some pretty big crowds. So Minnesota is going to be really fun to watch on election night. I have it going red. And so, okay, let's talk a couple things on Minnesota. So Minnesota did go blue 4 years ago. But again, it barely went blue. Barely. It was another state, I think, kind of like Virginia and New Hampshire, where Trump was leading, and just right at the end, Hillary Clinton came back and won. And Minnesota wasn't called until like Wednesday morning. That's when it was called blue. Not that it mattered at that point, because Trump had already had enough votes to win. It did go blue, but I think there's going to be a real push for it to go red this year. And let's talk about the whole George Floyd thing in Minneapolis here for a second. Now, let me be clear. I'm not necessarily defending the cop in the George Floyd incident. In fact, I'm not defending him at all. What happened in Minneapolis was terrible. Okay? Well, make no mistake about that. And don't get me wrong. I totally understand when people say, oh, well, you know, when cops murder people unnecessarily, they need to be held accountable for their actions. I totally get that. I mean, really, when you think about it, only a crazy person would disagree with that. Like, I mean, most of the disagreement in cases like that isn't so much, should the cop get punished? It's really, is the cop innocent or guilty? That's really the root of the whole argument. And in the George Floyd case, now I don't say this about every single cop incident that you hear about in the news, but in George Floyd's case, I would say they did the right thing when they arrested this guy, the police officer, and charged him with the whole crime. I think that was in the right. And I know some people were saying, oh, it should have been first-degree murder. I think second degree is just fine. Sorry, hate me all you want. I think second-degree murder was perfectly fine in that case. Maybe third degree. I don't know, but point is, I'm not saying certainly not saying he's innocent. That's I think we can all agree on that. That being said, though, okay, look at the whole defund the police thing going on, which is going on in a couple different cities, but this whole defund the police nonsense got started in Minneapolis. And going back to what I just said a second ago, okay, say you don't think all the cops are innocent. That's fine. I've never felt that way myself. No, the cops are not always right. They're not always I mean, sometimes they are, yes, but not always. Yes, cops do bad things, and yes, they do need to be held accountable. But think about that first. Defunding the police. Are you kidding me? I mean, yeah. I mean, even if you're a Democrat, I've seen Democrats too who are against this. This isn't just Republicans, okay? Even Democrats have spoken against this. And even Joe Biden, he says he's against defunding the police. And whether or not that's actually true, I still think that's going to turn a lot of people towards Trump, because people know, they know beyond a shadow of a doubt, voting Trump and getting more Republicans in the office will, if nothing else, will help get rid of this whole defund the police nonsense. I think that's going to drive a lot of people to vote for Trump. Now, again, maybe Biden, in fact, does not support defunding the police. That might, I'm not trying to say, he supports it. I mean, maybe he doesn't. But I think for a lot of people who really don't want the police to be defunded, I just think they're going to feel a lot safer voting Republican, because Republicans tend to be a lot more anti-police defunding than Democrats do. Some Democrats do support defunding the police, even if Biden himself isn't one of them. So I think that's going to push a lot of people to vote red. And maybe you think that's fallacious. Maybe you don't think it should be. But I just think that's how it's going to be. So it's certainly not going to help Biden, a Democrat, not going to help his chances getting into office. It's just not going to happen. So all that wrapped up to say, yeah, I think Minnesota's going to go red. Okay, Wisconsin. Okay, Wisconsin, I think, is going to be the toughest state. The toughest state to call. So maybe I shouldn't call Wisconsin. Maybe I'll come back to Wisconsin. I'll go ahead and call Iowa. I think Iowa's going to go red. Let's take a look at the count we got here. So 136 for Trump, 128 for Biden. So now Trump's in the lead, but just barely. Not much. So let's go out to the West Coast. I'm going to start with Washington. Washington is going to go blue, I think. Now, Washington's been also kind of an interesting state, too. Look at all the CHOP stuff that happened in Seattle. That was a disaster. And again, it's not just Republicans who say this is a disaster. Democrats have said the same thing. Well, some Democrats, like the not so extreme Democrats, you could say. They hated what happened in Washington. And the mayor of Seattle, I can't remember what her name is, but she's a Democrat, and she basically supported the whole CHOP thing. She didn't get rid of it until they showed up on her porch or something like that. So yeah, I think that's going to turn a lot of people to vote Trump. The real question is it going to be enough to turn the whole state of Washington red? I don't know. Maybe it will, but for right now, I just don't think it's going to be quite enough. I do think it's going to make Washington a little closer, or even a lot closer, you could even say, than it normally would be. Washington's usually called pretty early. I think Washington's going to take a while to get called. Ultimately, I do think it'll stay blue. That's just how I don't quite feel like Washington has enough momentum. They have some momentum. I just don't feel like they're going to have quite enough to go blue, or go red, I mean. So I'm going to leave Washington blue. Same thing in Oregon. I'm going to leave Oregon blue. All right, not a West Coast state technically. I'll go ahead and cover Arizona, which will go red, I think. All right, so now we're actually tied up. 147 for both Trump and Biden. Okay. I'll go back to California in a second because I have some thoughts on that. But let's go ahead and cover Pennsylvania. This is another very close state. I think we're going to see more or less the same results in Pennsylvania. I think it'll go red. Not by much. I do think it's going to be a very close state this year, just like it was in 2016. I do think it'll stay red. Trump now has the lead. I'm going to go ahead and put West Virginia red. And, okay, Ohio will get back to. North Carolina, I think will go red. I just don't see Joe Biden winning a state like North Carolina. Now, there are a number of states on this list. Some of them I haven't covered yet. Hang on a second. Okay, sorry. Just a text, not important. So North Carolina, I think, is a state that is, it's certainly not the reddest state in the nation. That said, I just don't think Biden has enough to win the state of North Carolina. Now, I was actually getting ready to say, there are a number of states in the United States of America that are gonna go red, not necessarily because there are so many people there that like Trump, but because rather there are so many people there that don't want to see Biden winning. I think North Carolina is a good example. In some cases, North Carolina would go blue. That's why it's often considered a purple state. This time, I don't think it's going to. You know, if this were a Trump versus Sanders election, completely different story. In a Trump versus Sanders election, North Carolina, I think, would have a very good shot at going blue. In fact, maybe I'll show here in a second, I'll show a prediction map hypothetical between Trump and Sanders just to kind of give you an idea. But yeah, I'm going to leave North Carolina red. That's the thing about this election that a lot of people need to remember. You know, I've talked before to certain people like on the internet and people I know on the internet why I think this state's going to go one color, I think this state's going to go another color. And they'll say things, and they'll say things like, well, that's not going to happen because typically this state wouldn't go this color. And typically they might be right. But this is not a typical election. Folks, this is the 2020 election. This is anything but typical. I don't care who you're supporting. I don't care who you're voting for. This is not a typical election. And so when people say, well, that state's not going to go red or that state's not going to go blue, in a typical election, you might be right. It wouldn't. But this is not a typical election. There's going to be a lot of states that are going to go certain colors that a lot of people are not going to realize until election night. So that's why this is a very, very important election and a very interesting election to watch as well, regardless of who you support. And so because I think there's going to be a lot of people who vote for a particular candidate, like not even because they like that candidate, but because they'd rather see the other candidate lose. I think there's going to be a lot of people who vote Trump because they don't want Biden as president, and vice versa. And I think North Carolina is one of those states. I don't think North Carolina is the most pro-Trump state in the nation, even though, again, Trump has been doing a lot of campaigning in North Carolina, some big crowds, but Biden being the Democrat nominee in this case, I think is going to have a big impact on North Carolina, and hence why I think it's going to go blue. Another state, Virginia. Virginia is another state. I already mentioned this earlier. Virginia is another state that almost went blue, or sorry, almost went red 4 years ago. It went blue, just barely. And most of the blue voters in Virginia were up in like the Washington, D.C. area. And Washington, D.C. I already covered D.C. I think that's going to stay blue. But yeah, Virginia, and again, another state. Trump's been really campaigning in Virginia, so it has a good shot. It absolutely has a good shot. All right, let's come back to Texas. I'm a little surprised, actually, I haven't talked about Texas. Yeah, Texas, it's going to go red, I think. There's been a lot of talk in the news, and supposedly Fox News put something out yesterday about how Texas might go blue. I don't think so. I think Texas is going to stay red. I just don't see, like, yes, there are some areas in Texas that are Democrat. And, I mean, here's the thing. I live in Texas. So, I guess if I'm wrong on Texas, I really have no excuse on that because it's the state I live in. So, if I'm wrong on this state, I'm going to get a lot of dislikes on this video and a lot of nasty comments probably, but I deserve it, I guess, to be fair. It's my fault for putting this on YouTube and stuff. But, yeah, I don't see Texas going blue. I don't see it. Now, again, I certainly don't think Texas is going to be as blue as Oklahoma. Certainly, no, that's not going to happen. It's going to be tighter in Texas than Oklahoma, Arkansas, and even Missouri, Louisiana, the Dakotas, yeah. Although I don't think Texas will be the hardest state to turn red out of the Great Plains states. I think that award would go to Kansas. Texas, I think, is the second hardest. But, yeah, nothing really about Texas that really strikes me as going blue. Yes, like there's a lot of big cities in Texas, like Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, El Paso, Austin as well. that are going to have a lot of Democrat votes, but I don't see those being enough to turn the whole state blue. And I think another major factor in Texas, and it being a purple state and people speculating on whether or not it goes blue. So if anyone remembers the midterm elections from 2 years ago, that race gave me a heart attack. I think a lot of people got a heart attack from that race. My gosh. Yes, ultimately Ted Cruz came out victorious, but wow. I don't think anyone was expecting that race to be as close as it was. Even if you voted for Beto O'Rourke or you voted for Ted Cruz, regardless, I don't think anyone thought that race was going to be as close as it was. And I know ultimately Ted Cruz did pull ahead and win. Not by much. That was a very, very close race. And that's why a lot of people raised speculation, Beto O'Rourke might run for president, which he did, but he didn't make it very far. So, I mean, ultimately, I don't think Beto O'Rourke is really that popular. I think the reason why that race was so close is because how Ted Cruz just isn't that popular either. And I mean, I don't like Ted Cruz, not a big fan of him. I don't like either of those candidates, really, to be honest. I was pulling for Ted Cruz to win, but that was more of those, well, who's the lesser of the two? I didn't like either of them. I don't like Ted Cruz. I didn't like Beto either, so that might have part of the reason to do why it was such a close race. But yeah, I don't see anything about Texas that makes it go blue. But again, if I'm wrong on Texas, I have absolutely no excuse since I live there, so you can come back and rip me all you want to if Texas goes blue. You can do that. Okay, Georgia. Georgia's very similar to Texas. I think it'll go red. I think it's going to be a little closer than some of these other southern states. But, okay, let's go up to Wisconsin. Wisconsin, this might actually be the toughest state to call. I don't know which one this one's going to go. This one could go either way, but I am going to go for blue on Wisconsin. I know there's a lot of people who are thinking Wisconsin's going to go red, and it wouldn't totally shock me if it did stay red, but I feel like it will go back to blue this year. So, yeah, I mean, there's not really much I can say. It's like, well, why do you think Wisconsin's going to go blue? This is a tough one. And like I said, if it goes red, it wouldn't surprise me. I think this could go either way, but my heart right now, and I have no idea why, I'm going to leave it on blue. So, Michigan, I think, will go red. Michigan, I do think, is a much redder state than most people think. There's a lot of people, and I will admit, I myself used to have this bad habit, but you have to look at the whole state. You have to look at the state as a whole, not just the big cities. Because when people think about Michigan, they often think about Detroit. And yes, Detroit is a very blue city. But Detroit does not represent all of Michigan. And not only that, but the population of Michigan continues to decline. Let's just look up the population of Michigan. You know what? I'll put a screenshot of it up right now. Yeah, 200 and... I actually don't know. I'll have to Google it, and I'll put it up later. But that's the population of Michigan. So... Or population of Detroit, I mean. So... Yeah, Detroit's declining in population, so I think that's just going to make it all the easier for Michigan to go red, especially if people are leaving Detroit, not necessarily for other states, but maybe going out to live in other parts of Michigan that are much more conservative. So, I mean, you get outside Detroit, Michigan is hardcore red. Hardcore red. So, a lot of conservatives in Michigan when you get outside of Detroit, which is shrinking. I don't think Michigan will be any easier to win this year for the Democrats than it was 4 years ago. So, South Carolina, I think will go red. I don't know why I waited so long to call South Carolina. It's going to go red. Now, you notice, hang on, let me just put that back for a second. All right, so before I just flipped South Carolina, you'll notice Trump had 270 votes. That's enough for him to win. But will he win? Because we still have Ohio, we still have California and Florida, three of the biggest states. South Carolina, I just said will go red, so actually he's up to 279 now. So as it stands, yes, Trump would lead, but there are three more states to call, and these are big states too. A lot of big votes out here. So Ohio, this is another tough one. I really don't know which one this... I feel very similar about Ohio as I do about Wisconsin. Ohio, I'm going to put Ohio red. It's going to be close. Ohio might take a while to call. I think it's going to go red. I know there's a lot of Democrats who want it to go blue. Again, if Ohio went blue, that would not shock me. Just like if I'm wrong on Wisconsin, that wouldn't shock me either. Ohio and Wisconsin, I think, are the two toughest states to call. If I'm wrong on Wisconsin and Ohio, I think those are the two states I'm wrong on. Actually, no, there's one more state I am more likely to be wrong on, but I'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about Florida. Now, Florida, I know another purple state, a lot of news about Florida, big battleground state. I think Florida's going to go red. Because, so I was in Orange County back in July, and I saw a lot of Trump supporters in Orange County. A lot. I don't remember seeing any Biden supporters out there unless they just weren't around. I didn't see any. So keep in mind, I was in Orange County, which you know where that is. That's Orlando. And I do believe Orlando, if I'm not mistaken, is the second biggest city in Florida behind Miami. Orange County seemed pretty conservative to me. I know Orange County does tend to go blue in the votes, and it could go blue in the votes, but it seemed really conservative to me. And I wasn't like looking for I actually wasn't looking for anyone of any political party. I noticed a lot more conservatives in the Orange County area. So I think Florida's going to stay red, honestly. Now, Florida's another state, kind of like North Carolina. I would say Florida, North Carolina, Ohio is a big one. Pennsylvania and Iowa. Those are all states that if it were a Trump versus Sanders election, they would all go blue. Iowa, North Carolina, and Virginia, Ohio, maybe even Michigan and Florida, they would all go red in a Trump versus Sanders election. But in a Trump versus Biden election, again, I just don't. Now, like I said about North Carolina, I think those states are especially going to have the most voters who vote not because they like the candidate they're voting for, but because they dislike the other candidate more. So, yeah. And last but not least, California. I'm not looking forward to this. There's a reason why I saved the state for last. But here we go. I'm going to regret this. You know what? I don't even need to do any build-up anymore, because you already know where I'm going with this. Yes, it's happening. Prepare to be mind blown. I think California is going to go red. Yep, that's right. Yep. The dislikes just spiked up right now. Yep, you guys, if you guys didn't think I was insane before, I'm insane now. Why on earth would California go red? Really? California going red? You're crazy. And sure enough, yes, if you think I'm crazy for this, you know what? You're not wrong. I probably am crazy. I've actually talked to other people about this, and conservatives too, not like other liberals and stuff. I've talked to other conservatives, and I've said, I think California's going to go red, and they're like, nah, it's going to stay blue. Again, in a typical election, yes, California I do think would stay blue. And again, in a Trump versus Sanders election, what color would California go? Yes, it would absolutely go blue. Pretty easily would go blue. Yeah, I think Sanders would win pretty easily in California. But Joe Biden, is he going to turn California blue? I just don't think so. So this far and away, if you haven't figured it out already, this is far and away the most bold prediction out of all the 50 states. This is easily the boldest prediction I've made. Sorry, I know my chair's squeaking a lot. This is a really stupid chair that's beginning to fall apart and stuff. I know I should have gotten one from IKEA, but when this one like completely falls apart, I'll just throw it in the trash and get one from IKEA. But that's for a different time. I'll talk about IKEA later. But so why exactly do I think California is going to go red? So a couple things to keep in mind. Now, first off, California I don't think is nearly as blue as some people think. I just don't think California is a solid blue state. Now, in big cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Jose, which is kind of part of San Francisco, and Oakland and all that, And you could be generous and say maybe San Diego. I don't know. San Diego's not that Democrat. I went to San Diego a couple years ago. It just didn't seem that Democrat to me. Not nearly as Democrat as LA. No, LA is like one of the most Democrat places on the planet, I think. But actually, no, San Francisco is. But point is, LA is a lot more liberal than San Diego, for sure. That's not even a question. Point is, places like San Francisco and LA have most of the liberals, which in turn they also have a pretty big percentage of the entire population of the state. True. But again, rural California is hardcore red. And there's a lot of people in California right now. And now, again, you might not sympathize with them. You might not agree with them. And that's fine. I'm certainly not saying you have to. But there's a lot of Republicans out in California right now that are not happy with the Democrat leadership in California. Let me just say this for the record. Gavin Newsom is, in my opinion, the worst governor of the 50 states. He is a horrendous governor. He is absolutely terrible. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying he's terrible just because he's a Democrat. Okay, I'm not the kind of guy who likes to hate on governors just because they're Democrat. I do think there are some governors that are at least okay, maybe even pretty good, that are Democrat. Colorado, for example, their governor's a Democrat. I can't say I have a problem with him. The Pennsylvania governor's Democrat as well. I can't say I have a problem with him. I don't like the New York governor very much. Andrew Cuomo, not a big fan of him, but he's way better than Gavin Newsom for sure. North Carolina, another good example. I'm not a big fan of him. What's his name? Gary Cooper? I think that's his name, but he's a Democrat. I think he's okay. He's not that bad. He's done some things I disagree with, but I mean, every governor's done things I disagree with, so that's not really saying much. Point is, I'm not hating on Gavin Newsom just because he's a Democrat, okay? I don't like Gavin Newsom because he is doing terribly in the coronavirus pandemic. Businesses have been destroyed in California, and I mean, to be fair, that's happened in every state to some extent. But California has kept things shut down for way too long in that state, and it's destroying businesses. And not to mention, it's also not really helping with the coronavirus case numbers anyway, because case numbers remain pretty high for most of the time California shut down, so it didn't really do a lot of good. So California coronavirus cases were still really high for whatever reason, and businesses were going out of business left and right. And I'm sorry, but why are the amusement parks in California still shut down? Oh, they're just amusement parks. They're not that important. I mean, they're not essential. I'm not saying they are, but people's jobs rely on these places being open. I mean, Disneyland, which I know is not essential, and I'm certainly not trying to say it is, but there are 17,000 people that have either already been laid off or are about to be laid off because they're still shut down. And it's October, the end of October of 2020. They've been closed since March, and some people are saying they might not be open until the summer. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a big deal for these places to be closed. Again, it's not just amusement parks. They're not that important. People's lives are more important than amusement parks. I mean, yes, technically on the surface, yes, you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's not really the whole picture. People's jobs depend on these places. And not only that, but okay, look at Florida. So Florida began opening their amusement parks in June and into July. In July, that's when their cases were peaking, when Walt Disney World reopened. And people thought they were crazy. Like, why would you open during a pandemic when case numbers are higher than they were back in March when you first shut down? But look at Disney World. Look at any amusement park in the state of Florida. There has not been not one coronavirus outbreak at any of those parks, which is really telling because, okay, think about it. Cases were spiking when these places opened, and they still haven't had any outbreaks. That all but proves these amusement parks know how to operate safely. That's a key word, safely. If you can operate a business safely, by all means do it. By all means. Now again, I mean, we're not going to see Disney World jam-packed with people up to capacity anytime soon like it would on a normal given, like January 2020. No, that's not going to happen, and they aren't doing that. And I'm not saying they should do that. No one, to my knowledge, is saying they should do that, except for maybe some fringe people out there, but If an amusement park, like say in Montana, reopened and there are no outbreaks, people would go, oh, well, that makes sense. It's Montana. They barely have any cases and they barely have any people. But Florida, I mean, they know how to reopen businesses safely. So California just doesn't have an excuse to me. They have no excuse for keeping so many businesses shut down for so long. I mean, think about it. The only business that to me is a genuine problem would be bars. And that's because at bars, there's a much greater chance of people going and I mean, people go to bars to socialize. That's the whole reason why they go. And they also go to get drunk. It's like a rocket scientist to figure that out. So naturally at bars, between people crowding together like they have a tendency to, and people drunk and not doing what they're supposed to and not staying away from each other. And no one's going to go to a bar and wear a mask, okay? Let's be real. No one is going to do that. People do not go to bars to wear masks. They don't do that. They're not going to do that. Don't expect it. It won't happen. That's why bars, sadly, have had a very hard time during this pandemic. Bars are bars, I would say, are by far the hardest business to keep open. But amusement parks, and if amusement parks can be open safely, pretty much any business, except for bars, can do the same. Even restaurants can do the same, because again, restaurants typically aren't as crowded and people aren't drunk and disregarding the rules and stuff because they don't know how to think when they're drunk. You know, and sporting events with limited capacity. I've been to a couple different sporting events, actually, since things started to reopen. I went to a Stars watch party when the Stars were in the Stanley Cup Finals in hockey, the Dallas Stars. I went to a World Series game, which was in Arlington at the Rangers Stadium. And I also went to a Monster Jam show a few days after that at AT&T Stadium. At all three events, they handled everything properly. Capacity was reduced. Everyone had to wear masks. And you can only eat and drink in your ticketed seats. So businesses that do everything right can and should be open. But California, for some reason, has had most of everything shut down for a while. And in some cases where places have reopened, they've just had to shut down again later because cases just barely ticked up again. So a lot of people in California, and again, not just Republicans, even Democrats are fed up with Gavin Newsom. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, that's Gavin Newsom. What does he have to do with Biden and Trump? When you have a leader like Gavin Newsom, who is a Democrat, you're going to have people sway in the other direction and vote for the opposite party. Now, maybe you don't think that should happen. And that's okay. I'm not saying you think that should happen. I'm just saying that's what tends to happen. And even though Gavin Newsom's awful performance in California might not have anything to do directly with Biden, and I'm not even saying it does, but that's going to persuade a lot of people to vote Trump. Maybe you might not think it should, and that's okay. But again, this prediction map I'm making here has nothing to do with desires. This has everything to do with what I think is going to happen, not what I want to see happen. Again, if this was what I wanted to see happen, every single state on this map would be one color. Every single color. Or every single state would be one color. Not one part of me, regardless of what party you vote for, why would you want to think, well, I want Texas to go red, but I want California to stay blue? Yeah, no one does that. No one does that. No matter what party you support, literally no one does that. So, but that being said, I have covered all the states. There you have it. If my prediction holds up, Donald Trump will be president for another 4 years in office. And by a pretty wide margin, too. I mean, look at it. 381 to 157. That's a pretty big landslide, you could say. Now, why do I think Trump's going to win by such a landslide? Now, Trump is a very divisive president. We can all agree on that, whether you like him or not. Actually, I kind of proved my point, in fact. Trump is a very divisive person. A lot of people like him. A lot of people don't like him. But Biden just seems like a very unpopular candidate, and I think that's going to play a major role in Trump's landslide victory. I don't think Trump's landslide victory has everything to do with just how popular he is. Yes, he's very popular. He's just as popular as he is unpopular, you could say. But Biden, I think, is a very unpopular candidate. Again, if this were Trump versus Sanders, I think this would be a completely different story. I'm going to put it on the screen right here. Bam, there it is. you're looking at a map that is a Trump versus Sanders election. Now you see that? Much more blue on the map. And look at the numbers. You can see Sanders, I think, would beat Trump in a situation like that. So the opponent absolutely does matter in this case. I think Biden just is a very weak candidate. I think he's going to do poorly. I just think he's going to do poorly at winning some of these purple states, with the exception of Wisconsin, which I do still have going blue. Other than that, every purple state will go red, and then some, actually. Yeah, so there you have it. That is my irrational prediction. I cannot wait till November 4th? No, 3rd, sorry. I can't wait till November 3rd when I'm completely wrong on this prediction and my prediction goes way out the window and everybody comes back and, rightfully so, rips me apart for my horrible prediction. Now you know why I call it my irrational prediction. So, in conclusion, to close up this video, let's talk about the states I think are most likely going to be wrong. So if I'm wrong on any states, what states are most likely am I going to be wrong on? I would say the most likely state I'm going to be wrong on is California. If California did go blue, wouldn't totally shock me, and I know a lot of people think I'm insane for this, but yeah, California is by far the boldest prediction, and I will say, if there's one state I'm wrong on, it is going to be California. So, yeah, California's number 1 on that list. I would say second place, Ohio. That's the state I'm second most likely to be wrong on. Third most likely is Pennsylvania. Fourth most likely is Wisconsin. Fifth most likely is Michigan. And sixth most likely is Florida, I would say. Those are my top 6 states that you could say. I don't know if I'm going to go all the way to 10. Yeah, why not? I'll go all the way to 10. Number 7, North Carolina. Number 8, Virginia. Number 9, Texas. And number 10, Minnesota. Ironically, I think Minnesota has a slightly higher chance of going red than Texas, even though ultimately both of them are going to go blue. There you have it. That's my prediction. So, thank you as always for watching. This is Clear Sky Productions here. If you stuck with me to the very end, I don't know why, because you literally just spent 46 minutes or however long this video is going to end up being listening to some random guy on the internet explain why he thinks Trump's going to win in a landslide. So if you stuck around for the whole thing, thank you very much for your support. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Like, comment, or dislike, comment, and subscribe. And watch election night. I cannot emphasize enough, this is going to be the most important election of our lives. I don't care who you're voting for, Trump, Biden, third party, heck, maybe you're not even voting. But no matter who you're voting for, or not voting for, this is an election for the history books. Or the e-history books, you could say. Kindle, whatever, since that's what most people seem to read these days. So, this is an election you're going to hear about for the rest of your lives. So if you haven't already, get out and vote. It is your responsibility as an American citizen to vote. Even if you're not legally required to, sure, but you still need to vote. I think today's October 30th as I'm recording this, so I think today is the final early voting day. So if you haven't voted already, please, by all means, get out and vote on Election Day. November 3rd. Is it November 3rd? Hang on. Let me see. Yep, it's November 3rd. So, if you haven't voted, vote November 3rd. I don't care how long you have to wait in line. Your vote is worth it. It's too important not to vote. Vote! I can't emphasize that enough. Get out and vote. I already did. I voted like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I voted a while ago, actually. So, I voted at like 11 a.m. on a Thursday, and there was like no one there, so I got lucky. Election day might be more crowded, but if you have to wait in line for several hours to vote, it's worth it. So, get out and vote. That's all I have to say. This is Clear Sky Productions, and regardless of who you're voting for, may the best candidate win. That's all. Until next time, this is Clear Sky Productions, signing off. Good night, folks.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure